All right. You are live on YouTube and Facebook, and I'll watch the waiting room and let them in as they come.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome to the first meeting of the year for the Community Engagement Task Force. We've got, I've had quite a few people reach out with interest, and hopefully more will be joining tonight. The plan is to meet quarterly, but still have dialogue throughout the year, whether it's by phone call or email or however we want to do it. But do plan to meet quarterly to get engaged. So Vicki Kyle was on, and she's the co-chair of the task force. And I know that this was a previous brainchild of hers as well, to try to take a deeper dive into what the needs are of our residents from every area. So, us as council members are here to represent. We are elected to represent you guys, residents of the city. We actually have quite a few council members on tonight, which is awesome. I'm excited that people want to be engaged within our governing body. So if you guys if we want to go around just briefly and introduce yourselves. I'm Rebecca Reckers. I have served one term on council. I'm in the first year of my second term. I've been an Erlanger resident for about 10 years now. I love it. I love our city. It's close to everything, and it feels like home. And I'm happy to be here, happy to serve. Diana, I'm just going off of who I can see next on the Zoom. Do you want to introduce yourself? And
Sure, thanks, Ms. Reckers. I'm Diana Nicely. I'm newly elected on council, and it's an honor to serve. And I'm glad everybody's on tonight. Thank you.
Bob?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I had a screaming 2-year-old in the background. I'm Bob Whalen. I live in Sherborne. Been here about 2.5 years in Erlanger. Recently moved from just 2 miles east, off from Covington, technically, so just right down the road, but pleasure to be here.
All right. Jim Brown.
Hi, my name's Jim Brown. I live in the Spring Valley neighborhood, out here on Farmwood, way out on the back corner, next to, kind of sandwiched in between Narrows and Richardson. Lived in Erlanger 30 years and served a couple terms on council way back in the day.
Thanks for being here. Ian Madden, welcome.
Hey, everybody. So yeah, my name's Ian Madden. I've been in Erlanger for 6 years. My wife and I bought a house in Cherry Tree. We're still here. We got 2 kids. I understand the screaming kids. I got a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old out there, and they're with my wife. So this meeting can go as long as you want it to take care of the kids. So
thanks for being here. Tom Cahill.
Hi there, my name is Tom Cahill. I'm Erlanger City Councilman. I've been serving since 2007. I live over in the Deer Chase subdivision.
All right. Lucy Riffle.
Hi, I'm Lucy Riffle. I'm lived in Erlanger for 65 years in the same house on Erlanger Road down by Lindeman Elementary. Born and raised here. My father used to be, at that time it was called city coordinator. Matt Kramer's position. He did that for all of his working career. My brother served a couple terms as mayor, served on council. I ran Erlanger Rescue Squad, Fire Department Auxiliary, and was a teacher, and I'm a retired principal from Tishner Middle School.
Awesome.
And I worked part-time for the police department until all this hit, till COVID hit. Yeah.
All right. Mayor Fetty.
I'm Jessica Betty, mayor of the city of Erlanger. I've been mayor for 2+ years now, was a council member prior to that. Lived in the city for 24 years. Grew up in Woodland Hills. I live in Lakemont now. I have 3 kids, and I'm married to another Erlanger sweetheart, neighborhood sweetheart. So that's about it.
All right. Vicki Kyle, my co-captain.
Hi, I'm Vicki Kyle. I've lived in the city for 48 years. I'm a retired school teacher. I taught for 42 years, a couple years at Lloyd High School and 30 years at St. Henry District High School. As I said, I've been in the city for 48 years. I've been on city council since 1997. So this is my 25th year. So I'm an old timer. I know the history of the city. And I'm just glad to be here. I wanted to get input from all the citizens. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Kristin Inman, welcome.
Sorry, I was unmuting. Hi, I'm Kristin Inman. I actually have only been in Erlanger for, I think this is the 4th year 4 come April. So I'm definitely newer to the area. I live in Woodland Hills, and I kind of help to take care of a lot of the planning and stuff for that neighborhood currently. I work full time and have a 20-month-old daughter, so
Rambunctious.
stay busy with her. Yeah, she's wild. And I know Rebecca. I work with the Welcome House outreach with her, so that is a little bit about me.
Awesome, thank you. Mr. Hermes.
Hello, I'm Tyson Hermes. I moved to Erlanger in 2010 and have served a term as mayor, and am on my 2nd term as a city council member, and part of this group as a citizen. Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right, Miss Jasper.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm driving. Okay, good. Okay, sorry, I can't see you guys, so I'm driving home from work. My name is Jennifer Jasper. I am an Erlanger native. I was born and raised here, went away to college, and was away for several years. Moved back here 8 years ago to raise my family. I'm a single mom. I have a 16-year-old son. He's a sophomore at Dixie. I grew up off Riggs Avenue on Edgar Court. Then when I moved back here 8 years ago, bought a house on Forest, and then about almost a year and a half ago, bought a house in Sherborne. So, and I'm serving my first term on Erlanger City Council. I love the city. Obviously moved back here to raise my family because I love it, and my family's all here. And I just really am looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts and ideas on this task force. Thanks.
Awesome. And last but not least, Chrissy Lunsford. Welcome.
Hey guys, sorry I joined late, so hopefully I haven't missed too much. I've lived in Erlanger my entire life. I married for 20 years. I have 3 kids, 2 in the Erlanger Ellesmere School District and 1 in college. I also work full time, so wearing a lot of hats like many of you. Looking forward to being on this committee and contributing to my community and, working with all of you. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this first meeting is really to try to establish what the goals are, and that is to build that a better understanding and cover as many areas at a finer level if possible. And we've got a lot of representation from the central, from the Stevenson corridor, and then we've got council members to fill in because they're residents too. We're all residents, so very appreciative. But I also want to hear. We want to hear what you guys think the city is doing well. What you'd like to see, what you're seeing, and where your pain points are. We want to again focusing on goals. We want to make sure that our residents have the highest quality of life. We want Erlanger to be where people want to live, not because it's, I mentioned earlier, it's super convenient to everything, but I want to live here. I love living here, and I want that sentiment to be felt by our residents. So we can start, if you want to, Ian, I'll start with you since you're representing Cherry Hill. You had mentioned, and next time I can send out the responses that we received. I received about 14 responses from folks. But you've mentioned some issues with traffic. If you want to, dive into your thoughts, what you're seeing, positive and negative, and so we can hear what's popping in Cherry Hill and what your needs are.
Okay, so first of all, I think that the growth that we have by Cherry Hill is fantastic with Amazon and all the becoming a hub is great. With that said, there are a lot of semis now, and they are slowing down. They're slowing down traffic from my subdivision. I don't know if you guys know where Cherry Tree is, but it's right on Donaldson. So so I'm 3 lights away from 75, and it takes me a solid 10 minutes to get on the highway. Like it's in the morning, it's pretty rough sometimes, just because of how the lights are lined up. But yeah, so that's one of the things that kind of agitates me. And then just in the subdivision, we've had a couple of my neighbors and I, we had younger children, and the speed limit is 25. And as you go through it, there's a lot of cars going 35. So I would like, if possible, to reduce the speed limit to like 15 if possible, or something like that. Or just have a discussion about if that's possible. Yeah, so traffic, like I said, I enjoy the growth. I think that the council's doing a great job about bringing in commerce, bringing in business, and making the area affordable and livable. I love the fact the taxes are low. I saw that, they haven't increased in some time. So yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job. I just want to kind of troubleshoot and see if there's anything else that we can figure out to help with that.
Yeah. Well, we can always talk to a combination of Public Works and PD to do a traffic assessment. We have the ability to do that a couple times a year. We have the equipment where they can see how frequent the speeding is, and signs don't always necessarily work, but children at play. I mean, and Jessica, you may be able to speak to more of what our opportunities are there. But I think that an evaluation would be probably the first step. You also mentioned that you're talking about you mentioned a lack of resources that could be a concern. What are your thoughts on that, Ian?
So, and specifically in our subdivision, when you go at different areas of Erlanger, you got parks everywhere. Parks for the kids to go to, like over by you got like 3 parks over right by Dixie Highway. And then you come to Cherry Tree, there's no parks. There's nothing for the kids to do. And I know that there's been several, I'm also a member on the neighborhood apps, and there's been some chatter about teenagers getting in trouble. So there's nowhere for us, we're kind of isolated. There's nowhere for our kids to go, our teenagers to go to get in trouble, but to get in trouble. So and so like I said, I've heard this chatter before, and I'm a school counselor, and so I know that idle hands are devil's playground, and if you give the kids nothing to do, they'll find something that you don't want them to do. So if we could just discuss something about that too.
Okay, outstanding. Well,
Rebecca,
we can definitely.
Can I ask a question about that for Ian? Can I ask a question for Ian?
Sure.
My family used to own most of Cherry Hill subdivision. That was a farm originally my grandfather owned. And the last section of it, I got this house that I live in now. My brother got the last section that was left. And it was sold and developed, 10, 15 years ago now. But my question is, and Jessica, you might be able to answer this, I'm not sure. I know that when it was sold, there was some of the property there that was sold that was not able to be developed, or the developer was not going to develop it, or it was in the agreement. I don't know exactly how it went, but the city owns some wooded property back there. And I don't know, I haven't looked at it. I don't know if it's eligible, but that might be a place that put in the parks committee, maybe. I know you've got one of those to look at developing a park back there. because Cherry Hill subdivision does have quite a few homes in it. And I do know the city owns some of the land that my brother sold off. The developer, he sold it to the developer who, for zoning or whatever, gave some to the city. Are you familiar with it, Jessica?
Yeah, so we own a lot of the property that runs along the piece of Erlanger Road that we shut down due
Right.
to the slippage. So my only concern is we've talked about the potential uses for that land. However, the cost of fixing the road always exceeded what the benefit would be. That's why I think it was maybe 2017. We officially closed down that piece of Erlanger Road because
Right.
it was deemed by VOX to be just extremely expensive to fix. So the other pieces of land that are owned by the city are along the Houston North as you're going up into Erlanger Commerce Center. And we still own those because we've actually had several businesses that are interested in that property, having that close access to the airport, the close access to the Amazon hub. So we have hesitated to do anything with that land because of the development that's going on, because it might be a valuable piece of land for a new business that's looking to be close to the airport. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other pieces of land back there that are unusable that could be allocated. That's something that we can bring up to the Parks Master Plan Task Force. Something that over the last 2 years I've tried to focus on is looking at the 12 parks that we do have and trying to make them better and invest in them prior to creating another park. That's only, I don't want to make something brand spanking new when there's already 12 that really need some drastic attention. So that's my only hesitation. I know I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate here because Ian, I would love a whole nother park. But I mean, it's not that it can't happen in the distant future. Just in the short interim, it's focusing on those existing parks. Does that make sense?
I love those parks. I love the little train park. We probably visit that one the most. I feel like it's most kid friendly for my kids' age.
Yeah.
I would just like that about 2 miles closer to me. For when they, like I said, and it's more about not necessarily my kids. It's more about the community and like the chatter that I've heard, because we do have some teens, we do have some kids here, and there's not the closest thing for them to do is to walk to the Super Bowl, and that costs money, So aside from that, they're just walking around the subdivision, So.
Ian, can I go back to one of your other questions or one of your other concerns about traffic? So we have speed radar signs that we can put up to do a traffic study. So if there's a particular street that you are having a concern with, just let me know if you're on Cherry Hill, right? I mean, if it's Cherry Hill, what we do is it's not just speed radar that it tracks how many cars are coming and going. It also tracks the time of day that traffic is going up and down. So you can see peak hours of whether or not, during a certain period of time, there's excessive speeds. So what it helps us do is we take that data and then we apply it to our patrol. And we say, okay, from this time to this time, we have a targeted approach to our patrolling for speed issues. So what I can do is I'll talk to Chief Rader and see if he can get the speed radar sign moved over. I don't know where they are right now, but we have 2 of them. And we can get one moved over to Cherry Hill and start analyzing some of that data to see if there are issues, because then we can start making some headway. Going back to your other question about the semis, the tractor trailers. So if you've driven down Houston North you have noticed the multitude of signs. Nobody's listening to the signs. The trucks turn up there no matter what. And we have tried and tried and tried. So, signs aren't working, obviously. So we put the boulders aren't working. So what we're doing now is we have some barriers that are going to go into the median. We're going to try that. The next thing we're going to try, we've gone to every single company that is up on the hill, and we're actually meeting with Amazon later on this week to impress upon their drivers to not make the turn. What's winding up happening is their GPS is telling them to turn left instead of going up into the Erlanger Commerce Center. It's telling them to turn left because it's thinking that there's something back there that's not there. And they're just blindly following their GPS. So we've had two within the last, I think, 2 months, tractor trailers pull down the power lines. These drivers are actually being charged. When they pull those down, they're charged with offenses by our police officers. So we're trying to mitigate the issue. The next step, and like we talked about last night in our caucus meeting, is potentially changing the name of that road from, instead of it being Erlanger Road, changing it to Sycamore Tree Lane, so that it's just a continuation of that street that already exists. So that maybe throughout the time, the GPS is going to notice it's a different street. It is going to take time for that to update, but that's our next attempt to try and solve this problem, because it has been a problem. And we have been relentless with trying to solve it, and we're not going to stop until we fix it. Does that help answer your question, Ian?
I'm not the first person who noticed this.
No,
Nope.
no, it's a quite miserable problem.
Jessica, one other thing I could suggest to you, and because I have noticed it also being on this side of town, is maybe asking the state highway department, because they will do studies of the traffic lights at those rush hours, morning and night, and see if they need to be adjusted so that the residents have more time to get out onto Commonwealth, Donaldson. It's Donaldson there.
Yeah.
District 6 has been pretty involved in that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. So we have had conversations with District 6 about extending the timing on that light. And the issue that they tell us, and I think this comes down to us needing to widen Houston North, but the issue that they tell us is that if we change the timing of that light, that it will back traffic up onto the off ramp. So that's how they're explaining it to us when we are saying, you got to give us more time. So one of the big issues is you can only fit 1.5 tractor trailers out of a green light on Houston North when you're trying to turn left onto Donaldson. That's not enough time. It's just not. So people are winding up running the light. And especially when you have Atlas starting up, I mean, that's more vehicular traffic, not tractor trailers. So, we've tried to impress upon District 6, this is a problem. You've got to extend the length of the light. And they just keep going back to the off ramp being an issue. And then we go back to them and say, we need money for Houston North. And, the design is in the process. But there have not been allocated funds and authorized funds for the actual construction. So that's something that we are impressing upon District 6 as our #1 priority. Like, it's great to have the authorization and the funds used to design. Now we need the next step. And, it's difficult because you really do have to plead and fight for these state dollars. So, having these types of conversations gives us, more that we can take back to the state and impress upon them how much this needs to get done.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for the clarity on the KDOT project. That's really good information, Mayor. Let's pivot over to Spring Valley. Jim Brown, talk to us.
Thank you, ma'am. Some good stuff. First of all, man, the new sidewalks are incredible. Love those. Love some of the other updates to the sidewalk network. Still a few little holes here and there, and I look forward to seeing those filled and updated. But man, I love that the neighborhood is much more walkable, much more safely walkable. Not only for my politician friends to go door to door, but get out and get a little exercise. So just wanted to give some props on that. Had a few bumps in the road or snowflakes early in the season with Public Works, but man, they're back on it and killing it in usual top-notch manner. So proud of the Public Works teams again. Thankful for that. So that makes it nice, even though my commute is from my treadmill to my desk, it's nice for everybody else going out and about on the street. So the only thing we're really noticing here is as our neighborhood ages from Turkey Foot out to Richardson on my side, where it gets in the older part of the neighborhood to the newer part, even though the newer part's 40 some odd years old now, and the neighborhood ages and turns over, as we're seeing a lot of those older folks die off, move out, move into assisted living, whatever. We're seeing that there are a lot of absentee landlords that are buying up some of those properties, especially with everything being so high. And some of them do a fine job and put some, great tenants in there. And some of them do not do such a great job. And as that continues across our neighborhood, kind of in the midsection has made it over to our little corner now. That is certainly becoming more of a problem with neglected properties, tenants that are not great neighbors to us. So I think that's one of the biggest things we're seeing. I know for a while that was, in different parts of the city as they've aged, turned over, that kind of comes and goes as a problem, but it is certainly visiting Spring Valley neighborhood at this time.
So you mentioned in your remarks that you were thinking oversight would be an option. Are you thinking like beyond utilizing codes enforcement? Are you seeing blighted properties? Do you have more specifics?
We're not there yet, but there are certainly not in my ring. I know, toward the middle section as you take Circlewood and kind of head on over toward Ridgewood as you get into the much older zone. There are some over there, and I know that far side with some of the duplexes and stuff a few years ago was part of the task force, really focused on with codes, cleaned that up and moved some along. But just again, as it's aging and turning over, again, there aren't any that are, oh my gosh, this is a problem, because I would certainly call and report that. But that trend is coming, and I'm concerned it'll be a problem sooner than later if we don't, just stay vigilant on that.
Okay. Well, definitely keep us posted, offline, and if you want to shoot us an email if anything comes up that we should definitely be concerned about. Mayor, did we have at one point like a listing of landlords, or I feel like this was part of dialogue at one point?
We have a rental registry that's required for you to go onto our website and let people know that you are rental. But that is truly the extent of it. James, if you're seeing something in particular, I would ask that you send us those situations and those houses and properties and what you're seeing, because we do have full-time codes enforcement officers and then we also have a police social worker. And one of the big things is understanding, whether or not it's an issue that can be solved easily, and whether the resident is willing to solve it or needs help solving it, or whether it needs to end in a citation or violation. Because there's lots of resources out there. And what's really awesome about codes working hand in hand with Becky, our social worker, is the E-Angel program. There's all kinds of programs available. So if it's a it's truly I really can't keep up my yard, or I don't have the ability to cut my grass, or whatever the issue is, there are ways that we can help walk them through the process, or get them connected to a resource that's within our community. I mean, I was just talking to Becky yesterday, and she was telling me about an elderly woman who could not cut her grass. She was alerted to the situation by codes enforcement, and she reached out to one of the local churches, and now the church is cutting their grass on a regular basis during the summer. So these are situations that can sometimes be helped. In some of the situations with the landlords, and that probably then has to be a violation, a citation, if they're not willing to make those changes to the property. But there are two different routes to handle codes enforcement, making sure that we're taking care of blighted or dilapidated or potentially abandoned properties.
Yeah, we do have a number of elderly neighbors and widows, and everybody in our street, has a pretty good idea who they are, and we look out for them and take care of them. But like I said, just in the last 3 or 4 years, I've noticed there are more rental properties, that are cycling through rent, and just some of those that, again, I'm glad to hear the registry still goes on, and there is some oversight there, but don't want it to become a problem. And certainly if there was, I would not hesitate to pick up the phone.
Well, we appreciate that, and keep us apprised of those potholes when you see them, when the weather breaks, that you were mentioning. Can you guys? Can you guys hear me?
Hear you.
Okay.
I
All
can
right.
hear you. Yep.
So let's go to Sherborne. Whalen.
Hey, how we doing? So yeah, our neighborhood, we're one of the fairly newer ones for the city of Erlanger, and I guess you could sum it up and say we're having some growing pains. We got a lot of young families in our neighborhood, which is one of the main reasons we moved here. I got 3 kids under 5, so that's pretty standard for what you're seeing in our neighborhood. You're starting to see little groups of the bicycle gangs that are forming. So it's kind of neat. Going on to what Ian said earlier, it would be nice to have a place for those kids to go. There is no walkable or bicycle rideable park or area where they could, go and hang out at. There is a small park at the top of the Sherborne Hill that we talk about, but it's poorly located. It's just a tiny little green space. It doesn't do much. So that would be one thing that I know has been talked about, a place for kids to go to. And on top of that, with last year, a new thing that was brought about, we had a lot of people set up food and beverage trucks in our neighborhood. Since we couldn't go out to restaurants, they kind of set up, had trucks come into the town, sit on someone's driveway, and people would walk over and be able to pick up dinner or, get a coffee or an adult beverage or whatever. If there was a park for those trucks to go to, I think that would be a great idea. You get more of an attraction, plus it takes the whole liability issue off of the homeowner, having people come on to your property and all that stuff. But I think the number one issue for our neighborhood, kind of sounds like everybody else, is traffic. The only means of egress, entrance, exit to our subdivision is Richardson Road. And as we all know, that is not the greatest road in our neighborhood. I know was it county or state owned or maintained. So there's not much we can do here other than have you guys advocate for us that road needs to be a priority. So I won't harp on it too much. I know, Rebecca, you and I have had conversations about Richardson Road in the past, but it's only getting worse, as we know. It's just a matter of time for that road washes away. It truly just needs to be re-engineered, which is a huge undertaking. In talking about a second means of egress to the subdivision, I know there is no requirement to do so until I believe the subdivision reaches 500 homes, which we're maybe in the 300s at this point. There were a couple new phases of the subdivision approved, so more homes are coming. But my understanding is the totality is still under that 500 mark. So while there may not be a requirement to do so, it's good to start the conversation, start thinking about, even if it's not required, it might be a means of safety, something, to think about and put some dollars towards in the future. But a lot of the conversations come back to Richardson Road and that just being, not the greatest thing. So other than that, yeah, it's a very young neighborhood. We do feel very secluded in a way, which we are, which is great. Yeah, I think that's kind of the number one topic and the main issues going on. As I said, we got growing pains going on. So, but it's good growing pains, I guess.
And I actually thank you for bringing up all of these points, Bob. I did speak to Matt Kramer earlier this week about Richardson because there's fresh potholes that they can't fix or fill with anything right now, where you're stopping to avoid them so that you don't have to go into incoming traffic. I'm talking about eastbound specifically. And the slippage is really in a concentrated area. If you were to look at Richardson as a whole. So, I mean, that dialogue is definitely happening. Unfortunately, it's not at the top of the priority list for state roads in Erlanger, but it is long-term a problem. So that dialogue is definitely happening, Bob, because it affects thousands of Erlanger residents on a regular basis, on a daily basis. In many cases, anyone who commutes downtown is taking Richardson Road. So, that dialogue is definitely happening. I have had people mention to me about possibly improving on the ability for Sherborne, like either it's a paved path or some improved path to get over to Lakemont to be able to have access to Flagship Park without having to go to Richardson Road or down the mile unpaved path to Doe Run Lake. So, I mean, that's something that I think that the Parks Master Plan Committee will probably consider taking up because, we have this focus with the city to make it walkable, and Sherborne and Cherry Hill are basically on islands, and I think ultimately we need to find a way to tie them in. And I shouldn't say islands, but physically walking, you're switching sides of the road, you're in an effort to stay on the sidewalks, and Sherborne is in that category as well, because nobody wants to walk on Richardson. That's just completely unsafe. And if you're taking bikes, I think you mentioned walking with bikes, it would be ideal to have that access. So that's definitely dialogue. I think that's going to require some planning, and it's not a short term. It's not going to be in the immediate short term, but I know that dialogue will be happening. I love the food trucks idea. I would love to see food trucks monthly at parks this summer, guys. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. It was really creative. I can't take credit for any of that. I just enjoyed them being here, but yeah, with not being able to go out to a restaurant or, go to a bar to watch a game or whatever, having them come here and just walking down, still keeping your distance from your neighbors, still talk to people. It was awesome. It was really great. Yeah. Very cool. Well, we'll definitely,
the Lions Club did food trucks a couple of times too.
Yeah. And we went up there. Nice. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Very good barbecue. So when Teddy and I went up there with the baby.
Something that was popular last summer that we did was Dreamy Whip Wednesday, where we had the Dreamy Whip ice cream truck every Wednesday. So throughout the entire summer, we will be having Dreamy Whip Wednesday. So
I think I can get on board with that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's pivot over to Chrissy.
Hi guys. So my stuff today is some of it's personal and some of it I think is city, for the betterment of the city as well. Nothing is going to be solved on this call today, so I don't expect anyone to have any solutions, but I just wanted to kind of throw them out there for the list. So for the short term, for my personal benefit, back in the day, for those of you who lived in Erlanger for a really long time, we used to have 2 trash pickup days, and it was delightful. Especially if you missed your first trash pickup day, you always had that second one as a backup. And oh gosh, many years ago, they took away that second one. And I think I cried real tears about that. And I would love to get it back. So every time there's a survey that comes out, I always manage to say I want a second Erlanger trash pickup day. So I'm saying it again on this call, I'm recognizing that that is a contract with the vendor and that is something entirely different, but I'm putting it out there because maybe other Erlanger citizens want that second trash pickup day too. So that is one for me. The second one, so I live on Price Avenue, and as others have mentioned there's a lot of traffic concerns in the city. So on Price, we are very narrow and we do not have a sidewalk. And we are a short corridor from Dixie Highway and we end at Tishner Middle School. So we have a lot of students that walk to and from, Dixie Highway or from Dixie Chili, before and after school. So we do get quite a few walkers. They have other opportunities and there are other paths they can take, but they don't always. So I have no problem with the kids walking in my grass, but there's really no sidewalk for them to walk on and the street is narrow. So it does sometimes get a little bit dicey. My daughter was actually grazed by a vehicle's mirror as they were trying to swerve to miss another car. And this has been probably sometime last year. Very accidental. She was totally fine. And it was a little old lady. So we just didn't say anything, but yeah, totally knocked her in the grass. And she came home and went, Mom, I got hit by a car. So imagine my shock. But yeah, so just the narrowness of the road makes it difficult for cars to pass. I think at some point the city might have considered even making it one way, which I think might also be a benefit as well. So at least cars are only going one direction. We may get less traffic both ways. I don't know what studies have been done or what impact that would have on traffic, but that is an opportunity area for us over here on this side. And the last one I have is a long-term opportunity. And again, this is something that I just think in general would be a good idea. Have no idea how we would impact it. Never been on council, so I'm working with you guys for this suggestion. But I would love to see some, what's the way to say it, a facelift, along Dixie Highway, along Commonwealth, for businesses to look better. Now I recognize there's some puts and takes there between the business owner and the city and landlords and things like that. But I wouldn't say we have blight, but I wouldn't say our city is as beautiful as it can be or as cohesive looking as it could be along that route to help attract new business, to help drive activity and walking along Dixie Highway, to make it seem more kind of a destination. I'm thinking of, you see those little towns sometimes in Ohio, or I think maybe Bellevue has a little bit of this, where the walkability in front of the businesses are a little bit better access. You can park and kind of walk along the whole strip and access every business. The fronts of the businesses look a little bit more cohesive and everybody goes, oh, what a cute little town. I want to go there and I want to frequent that business and I want to spend my money. I would love to see plans for that in Erlanger. I think it's overdue for us. So those are my 3 suggestions for my little area of the neighborhood.
Thank you, Kristin.
Rebecca, can I ask a quick question?
Sure. What's up?
Chrissy, are you Chrissy Webster?
Yeah, Lucy, it's me.
Okay.
I knew I couldn't hide from you.
Okay. With no picture, I didn't know the married name. Sorry. I just had to know.
Yeah, sorry. I called in from my phone. I was still working my day job, so I was kind of double dipping here for a second, so I didn't turn on the camera.
Just wanted to know who we had on here. I thought so. I recognized the voice.
I love Erlanger. It's such a small town.
Chrissy.
So, I was gonna pivot to you, Mayor, with regard to her concerns.
Okay, I'm gonna go backwards on her concerns. So her last.
Wait, you're not gonna give me my trash day? Because I really want the trash day.
I'll go backwards. I'll go backwards. So you had three things, and you're going to remind me of them in just a second. So I'm going to go to number 3 first, right? You had 3. So your third concern was about Dixie Highway and Commonwealth. So something that we implemented over the last, I guess it was about a year and a half or so. We had a small business task force. And we created, at first, it was called the Legacy Incentive Grant. And what it was supposed to do was to incentivize small businesses with payroll under $750,000 to reinvest in their business, in the front facade of their business. So what it allowed was a $5,000 grant from the city. It was a matching grant. So if they did $5,000 worth of improvements, we would give $5,000 in addition. So our money, the city's money, had to be spent on the front facade of their building. So either new signage or say new gutters or a new roof or new windows, something that was going to increase the property value for appearance purposes. So try and reinvest in their company. It was originally for companies that had been located in the city of Erlanger for more than 10 years. However, last year, we actually opened it up to all businesses. And we've had quite a few success stories with the Legacy Incentive Grant. Colonial Cottage has been a recipient. Kirkwood Sweepers has been a recipient. Let me think here. Johnny's Car Wash.
So you think a lot of these businesses they've been recipients of these grants. So they've done some improvements. They might have gotten new windows. They might have gotten a new roof, but that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing as the front-facing businesses, a cohesive look or not a branding for our city, but so they may have done some improvements, but it doesn't seem like, I mean, maybe some standardization, but it doesn't seem like everyone has done that. I mean, if you drive down the Dixie Highway corridor, some of these businesses have looked exactly like this for the 40 years that I've been alive. And there's not much change. So even the recipients of the grants, I'm delighted. I love that we've done that. I think investing in our city is literally what we should be doing. So that's great. But I mean, is there more we can do to keep that going and make it better? Like, we've done a program. What's next? Givalo?
I guess I'm struggling to understand what types of changes. Can you give me more of a specific example of what type of a change you're looking for?
How long have you lived in Erlanger?
24 years.
Do you remember SIDS?
No.
That was Gary Williams Martial Arts. It was SIDS, then it was CBS, then it was Gary Williams. It's literally, that thing is just, it was crumbling to the ground. At the same time that I think probably this program was in place. I don't think $10,000 was going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So there's lots of
the problem was that was Ellesmere.
Yeah,
was that too far down?
That example is.
So maybe I'm overlapping.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
I think what she's trying to say is, there's some towns, like I know Old Milford, for an example, on the Ohio side, if you've been up there, Fort Thomas, maybe Bellevue, I know was an example, but they have little kind of those small streets and more of a
charming,
yes, that's a good word, like a charming vibe to the street. Whereas the Dixie Highway portion just kind of seems a bit more run down. Like it could just have a revamp to, I know it would be a lot of money. But I'm just trying to help explain, I think what I interpreted that as.
It would be a long-term. Yeah, you're 100% right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think the types of programs that the small business incentive had put in place, and it's still a task force. So we're going to continue to try and develop ideas and develop plans and grants and programs that are to improve. But I think these types of things, these changes do take time. So this has only been in place for a year and a half. Then we've also created the Demo Revitalization Grant, which that was just implemented last year. And what that does is it takes any of the dilapidated, the properties that are either commercial or residential that really just need to go. They're past their useful life. And, no amount, for your example, I would probably use the demo revitalization grant, even though it's an Ellesmere. I'm just using that as an example. It's probably a building that's past its usable life. And whether or not, a building has mold or whatever the issue might be, we put this demo revitalization grant in place to where anybody can apply, and we will pay $10,000 towards the demolition of that property, because sometimes that's what stands in the way. So you'll buy a property, throw a couple $1,000s in to get it up and running, and that'll be good enough. Well, we're trying to set the bar a little higher and say, okay, look, you buy the property, we will pay $10,000 towards the demolition, which in a residential property, that's pretty much going to cover for the full demolition. Commercial, it's probably going to cover half, depending on the size of the building. But it's in an attempt to kind of start looking at our housing stock, looking at our commercial building stock, and seeing what is truly past its useful life, what really just needs to be torn down and something new rebuilt. I think another thing that could be looked at is our zoning, and making sure that, and that's something that I've tasked our new city or assistant city administrator and economic development director, is really dig down into our zoning. And are we zoned? Is our city zoned for what we want to go into a particular area? And have we put, sign regulations and, curb appeal, like, all of these different development plan pieces that can be built into zoning? Have we built those in? What do we want our city to look like? And if we're going to redevelop a piece of property or a piece of land, is it zoned for what we want it to be?
Is this not to interject, Mayor? I'm sorry. I know we're running against the clock here, but is that something that maybe the beautification task force would want to entertain, a more like a long-term plan for that, the Dixie corridor or the Commonwealth corridor, to look at some sort of standardization planning?
I think that's one of their big goals.
Okay.
So with these different projects.
So looking from a long-term standpoint, I think that we can follow back up with you, Chrissy, on that as those task forces meet. But with her other two questions with regard to the consideration of a one-way and the narrowness of the street and the accommodation of a potential sidewalk, is that has there been a study to determine if it could accommodate a sidewalk, if that's part of the walking plan? Who is our contact for this more impact? I think I'm saying impactful because it's in your front yard, you see it every day. Your children are getting clipped by mirrors. Just focus. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. Is this something that like Public Works would look at, or what's? It's
a conversation that I've had with Peter many times, to when we are setting our standard, when we're going back and doing the resurfacing and reconstruction of our streets on our street plan, and making sure that we're evaluating every single time if a street has a sidewalk, if it has it on both sides, on one side, or no sidewalk at all, and evaluating what needs to happen and can it accommodate a sidewalk. That question is happening every single time we do a resurface or reconstruction. If the sidewalk exists, we're then looking at the quality of the sidewalk. Does it need a total replacement or just parts of it being replaced? In Mr. Brown's situation on his street, we needed a total replacement. So, looking at price, that would be when it's up for any type of reconstruction, seeing if how much additional to get the easements in order to put a sidewalk in, and what would the cost be? So that is definitely in the mindset, in the standard moving forward, and it has been for the last 2+ years. Every single time we're going to do road construction.
Okay.
The other
well, we
question-
can definitely. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking that was one and the same. So with a one-way, is that not the same function?
I have not heard that yet, but that's something I can talk to Peter about.
Okay.
I know the hesitation of a one-way for, even when we were talking about the Sycamore Tree Lane yesterday, the hesitation of one-way is that either people will ignore the signs, fire and EMS, police, they're gonna need to get to you whether or not it's a one-way or not. So it just adds a level of complexity when you change a street from a two-way to a one-way. So it's not a decision that is easy, I guess, is the right word. But it can always be looked into.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll definitely circle back with you, Christy, on once that conversation has been had. It's probably going to take a couple months because of just the nature of their request and the conversations that would be required. Are we okay to move on to the next resident?
She had the question about the 2-day garbage.
Oh, my apologies, Christy. Sorry about that. What is the
Rebecca?
follow-up
Don't be talking over my trash, Rebecca. This is a big deal to me.
Just real quick, we are going to have to go to bid for our trash service. This is the first request that I've heard for 2-day, but it's something that we can look into building into the price. I don't know how much more expensive it will be. And when we're doing this contract, it's for the whole city. So I guess we would want to see how much that would increase everybody's quarterly rate before we would move forward on something like that. But we can take it in as an option and see how much it would be. Okay,
Sounds
sorry.
awesome.
No, you're fine. Thank you. All right, Kristin. What's going on? What's going on in Woodland Hills?
Hi. So we have a couple things that I think probably the biggest thing in our neighborhood is streetlights. It seems to be very dark, and we've had a lot of requests for, more lighting in the neighborhood. And I would venture on to say even more down Stevenson Road. I know I personally travel that road a lot, and I have several issues with that street, just the condition, the way that it floods so quickly, and, weather really kind of takes a beating on it. A few years ago, I pretty much almost ended my car in a flood because just the lighting was so bad, and I'm new to the area, so I didn't really know what to expect. Another thing we have is, similar to what people said, we had a couple people talk about Woodland Hills and traffic speed there. So maybe that's something we could consider pulling that sign that you had referenced to kind of monitor in that area. Of course.
Do you have pardon my interruption. Was there a particular street, or are you talking about on Woodland Hills Drive?
On Woodland Hills Drive, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We had a resident recommend putting in like speed bumps, which not personally a fan of speed bumps, but just something maybe so we could actually analyze what's going on there, maybe see if if it's that bad, we do need to put some speed bumps in or something. I would say, what else do I really like, Mayor, I know you did the sing-along truck last year, and I think that was a lot of fun, kind of bringing our community together. I like things like that, the live music, and I have a kid, so if you want to put a park in my backyard, that would be great. No, but of course, parks and festivals and family friendly, kid friendly events are always good. Food trucks. We have two streets in our neighborhood that have never been repaved, and Oxford and Kingsburg. And so I know some of our residents have some concerns about getting those repaved. Just adding to that, we did have Woodland Hills Drive repaved within the last year or two. And it's just, it was, I don't know. I hate to say it was poorly done, but I mean, people make jokes about when you drive down it, just the way you beat down the hill. It's not done smoothly. So, I do want to encourage any road repairs that we do to be done right versus maybe the cheapest. I don't know what actually happened there, but that's something
That's concrete, right? Concrete is Woodland Hills is concrete. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's bad. They say if you ever need to shake something up real good, just go drive down Woodland Hills and you'll get it done. And I have one other thing that has been a really big concern for our neighborhood. So when they widened Turkey Foot a few years back, they took down our neighborhood sign and they put a new one up. So I was told, I was not here at that point. It's literally crumbling, it's falling, and I've had several people come and assess it and the base of that. So this goes back to, I think, more of the state that's probably responsible for that. But if the city could help us at all, that wall, our neighborhood has personally already invested several $1,000s into a minor repair. And we were told that until the base gets corrected, and it's just going to keep happening. We can keep throwing thousands of dollars into it every couple of years. So we do have that kind of more serious issue that a lot of our longtime residents have been very concerned about that I wanted to bring up. And I think that's really, streetlights is really big one. I think it would help with a lot of our break-ins and stuff. We do have a lot of break-ins during the warmer months, and I just think that would help kind of steer some of that away. I think I covered everything. Okay.
Yeah. So what with regard to the streetlights, what is typically done is Public Works does an analysis. They'll go out there at night to do their testing that they perform to determine if it's something that needs to be done. There's definitely a cost to those because the power it's in the right of way, but also they're permanent. So we can definitely mention it to Public Works to see if there is a necessity there in Woodland Hills. I know some neighborhoods have more than they should in lighting, and others they really don't. We don't even have street lights in my neighborhood because it's not allowed. So we can definitely circle back on that one. Unless, Jessica, do you have anything to add with regard to how that process works and the approval and
talk to Peter about it.
Okay, thank you. And then you mentioned kid-related events, live music, parks, festivals. I'd love to hear more, Kristin, about like what you liked last summer, because I would love to see like this whole summer just packed with activities here in Erlanger, because I feel like we have a year to make up for all the fun, family-friendly events. Would love to hear your thoughts if you have any.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like I said, the sing-along truck that we just had a lot of fun. That was really easy to be able to go up the street and take my daughter and see all the neighborhood kids, and they all just really enjoyed it. I feel like that was a pretty easy one. And my whole life I went to, the Catholic school festivals. And so those are a lot of fun. Just maybe something, I know we have a really nice park over there at Flagship. Maybe some type of little festivals or something over there. I agree. If things get safe, I feel like we're all going to be wanting to go wild. And like my neighborhood, we plan a block party every year, and we canceled it last year. It's a lot of fun though, and I know we're looking forward to it this year. And um, just something to get out and do something, that's not just going out to eat all the time, or just somewhere where you can take your family and just kind of walk around and play some games or ride some rides or whatever with them. Just, I don't know.
Okay. No, that's great. And anyone else with kiddos on the call, if you have ideas and you want to shoot us an email, that'd be appreciated. Cause I mean, like not just speak for all the council members on the call, but I would love to see like a fun packed summer of activities here in Erlanger. You mentioned two streets that haven't been repaved. I actually think there's more than two in Woodland Hills that haven't been repaved. But there is a schedule that we are on track for. I don't have the specific years that these two streets specifically are slated for, but I know it has to be done on that schedule so that in 10 years when maintenance is required, they don't get backlogged and we run into other issues. So I can follow up with you after our meeting to give you more of an idea as to when on the schedule. Oxford at Kingsford, and I know Zeta Court is also on the Woodland Hills hot list for needing attention. All right, let's see here. Lucy, what's going on?
Hello, everybody. Yes, I live in old Erlanger. My house is 100 years old, and it's been in my family for 98 of those 100 years. On our side of Erlanger, old Erlanger, as I call it, old Erlanger, I have watched it grow from woods and fields and farms to a lot of development. I'm surrounded by 3 apartment complexes. And people say, oh, don't you hate? I'll be real honest. We have 1 apartment complex we have problems with. The other 2, we don't really have a whole lot of problems with. And the renters that live in the apartment, they don't bother us. The only problem I have is trash in the front yard because they all walk by and drop their trash. And I have hedges, so I have to pick it all up. But most of the houses that go up and down Erlanger Road and a lot on Riggs, I know Diana's down that way, they're owned, and a lot of them are owned by people that have owned them for a long time. I know of 3 rentals across the street here, but they're owned by one person who happens to be on council, and he has family and friends living in them, so he makes sure that they're upkept. So even though I'm in an old section, we don't have a problem with landlord issues or blight, and the homes around here aren't always the most beautiful, the most expensive, but they're kept up. People do their yards, people take pride in it. So I have no issue with that. As I wrote on my survey, and you I'm sure saw my answer, my only big issue is that our side of town get the same treatment as the other side of town. My brother lives on Twin Ridge. There's a couple of you on Sherburne. I know Jennifer's there now. So I go over there a lot to help him out and do various things. And like at Christmas time, the corner of Narrows, Nelson, whatever you call that now, that turn, city had it all decorated up pretty for Christmas, and it looked great. The corner of Stevenson and Turkey Foot, they had all decorated up. It looked great. The front of the city building was all decorated up and looked great. Nothing over here. And I love our city crew. I'm not downing them, okay? Because this was the first time. But as Diana said last night in council meeting, I was getting posts from friends who live on tiny cul-de-sacs on that side of town. Their road was totally cleared during the first snow, and Erlanger Road had never been touched. Not the first time. And where I sit in my chair right now, I see the road, so I know for a fact it was totally snow covered, and we have a lot of traffic. I just want our side of town to get the same treatment as the other side. Unfortunately, and the city had no control over this, the energy plant, the Duke Energy power plant up the street, has expanded. And even when it happened, Matt was not aware they were going to do what they did. Took us by surprise by putting those huge, ugly poles all the way down Riggs Avenue. When we went crying and screaming, the neighbors, to Matt, he said, we were led to believe they were half that size. I have a metal pole in front of my house and it's not even half that. And that's what he thought they were doing. And then they were up and it was too late and whatever. I appreciate the city has tried to do some planting around them to try to make them a little more aesthetic. But even up at the corner by the power plant where the city's put a fence, if they could do some kind of shrubbery or something in front of it, because it's ugly. I mean, it's just flat ugly. And they don't even have a true paved area. They're going in and out on grass and mud, and they need to have a direct in and a direct out that's paved or rocked or something, so that they're not. And they also were really bad last summer on letting their property go. Grass was knee high or higher. And I finally called Jewett and said, get over here. This is stupid. It's owned by Duke Energy. They could get a grass cutter. So that's really only our concern is on this side of town, that we're treated the same as the new. I've teased because my brother lives over there. When that was all built, I affectionately call that Soviet Erlanger, the west side of town, the east side of town. So just so that we get the same treatment, Ian and Cherry Hill's the same way. We're just feel at times neglected when you see all the pretty stuff and things happening over on the other side of town.
So can I answer some of that?
Sure.
So with regard to the Christmas decorations, the majority of the money that was spent for the Christmas decorations was spent at the city building. And then the corner of Nero's and Nelson, there was nothing up at Stevenson and Turkey Foot. And the reason there was nothing at Stevenson and Turkey Foot or at the corner of Riggs and Erlanger Road was all of our Christmas decoration money that we had in the budget, it got stripped due to COVID. Our next plan was the Stevenson Turkey Foot corner and then the Riggs Erlanger Road corner. And unfortunately, we had money in the budget and we were so concerned about the revenues that we cut all of those niceties, all those things that we really, really didn't need, we cut them out. And what I can guarantee you is now that our revenues far exceeded our overly conservative revenue projections, all of those things are being added back in.
Good.
And we're going to make sure that we have a cohesive look across the entire city. That has always been one of my main goals, is branding across the entire city, that you're in Erlanger, whether you're in Cherry Hill or Sherborne or wherever you are, you're in Erlanger because we have a standard that exceeds all others around us. So, the Christmas decorations is just one thing.
We're adding decorations to McAlpin too, right? On the corner where you enter. Isn't McAlpin on the list?
McAlpin and Dixie, where you all took where Gillespie's used to be.
We do not have that on the plan.
Oh,
we don't have anything to decorate there. It's an empty piece of land. It would be nice if we could do that.
Just throwing it out there. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay. All right.
Rebecca, could I step in a minute?
Sure.
I have a question. I raised my hand up. Lucy, thank you so much. You're a great advocate for our side of the town. And I thank you for being on this. You have some very good points because everything you spoke up, I totally agree with you. And everybody on our side is like the lost children. And this is probably where the beginning of Erlanger started at. I don't know, all the history, Lucy, but we are kind of forgotten about. And the point I brought up last night with the snow in that, Riggs is a busy thoroughfare, and it used to be a main street. So did Erlanger Road, and everybody from all sides of Erlanger cut through there to go to the library, to go to Kent Lands, Silver Lake. But I kind of feel like, we're forgotten and stuff. So hopefully it'll get back on the list. And I know it used to be snow emergency and cars were off the street and everything like that on Riggs, but I just don't want our side to be forgotten about either.
And I appreciate you very much, Diana and Lucy, for being on this, jumping on this call to talk to us, because we want to know where your pain points are and, how you feel things are in your area.
Well, one of the other problems that's happened over here also is with traffic, and you need to watch traffic, because we have kids that walk to Lindeman Elementary. It's literally in my backyard. And so I see it, but they also walk to the Riggs Avenue side. And with the new developments on Kenton Lands, the new businesses and things, when Dixie Highway gets backed up, these trucks and things cut through the neighborhood. And they come up Baker Street, down Erlanger Road, down Riggs to get to Kenton Lands. And they're tearing up our streets, first of all, that should be residential. And I worry about the children walking, because we know kids aren't careful. They cross and run out and carry on. But I worry because we're getting more and more of those, not even semis, but big box trucks and those types of things that are heading down to the new development on Kenton Land. So I think that's something else. Jessica, you were asking where the speed signs were. There is one right now, at least it was last week. I haven't been out much with the snow, but there was one last week on Riggs Avenue. So, it was right before the dip going close to Diana's. But, that's something else that I think just to point out, maybe get some signage, no trucks, I don't know, and I don't know that they can't come through here. But as someone was talking last night on your all's meeting about the trucks that end up going down Old Erlanger Road and up Sycamore, they also do that here. They come up Baker and come down Erlanger Road in front of my house, and then they're stuck because they end up at the expressway and don't know what to do. My part of Erlanger Road dead ends at the expressway at the apartments. One other thing about that I meant to mention with that is if the city could possibly have some dialogue with the management, and I'm just going to put it out there, of the Greenfield apartments, because that's where we have a lot of issues, is Greenfield. North Talbot, we get very few calls. I have a scanner, so I know everything that's going on. North Talbot, we get very few calls. And across the street, Four Seasons Apartments, I know that management, if they get a trouble call, and I don't mean an ambulance call because somebody's sick or, those type, but if they get a trouble call, they call the police department and get a copy of the open records report, and then they evict those people. So the people that live over there know if we have domestics every week, or we bring a drunk boyfriend in who's screaming and hollering, we're going to be out of here. So there aren't any calls over there. It's a nice little apartment complex. I've referred it to several people to move in. Town and Country must do something about the same down North Talbot, because we get very few calls down there. But Greenfield, they're buzzing on. And so maybe if they could have some kind of dialogue with the management saying, hey, we need your help on evicting these people. And I know that they don't have many open, so they're not going to say, we need the renters, because I know recently there was a wait list there. So they can rent them if they put those stipulations in ahead of time. We used to have problems down the street from Diana on Eagle Ridge and Eagle Creek. We don't have much down there anymore. So I don't know whether it's new management's cleaned it up. At one point, we actually had a satellite police station down there because it was so bad. But we don't get many calls down there. So really, in this area, the only rental that we have issues with is the Greenfield.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lucy. I love that you have a scanner. That is spectacular.
Hey, listen, when they went to digital, I had to get a new one because my old one that I bought when I joined the Life Squad in 1977 quit working. So I had to go buy a new one, but I can't stand it. I know everything that's happening in all 3 counties. Thank you.
Well, if you have a very specific resident that you would have concerns about that you would recommend like us do a well check on, shoot us an email offline, and we can follow up on that. Let's see who is left. Mr. Hermes representing Brightleaf.
Hello, good evening. Well, I've spent the last 2 weeks and I've gone door to door and I've spoken with every single person in Brightleaf. And every single one of them have said the exact same thing. They only care about one thing, and that is just painting the overpass. Nobody else seems to have any other concerns. No, I'm kidding. I would not pretend to represent all of Brightleaf. But if you were asking me, I think I mirror a lot of the same things that Kristin said. I hear people talk about streetlights. Brightleaf is pretty well lit, but there's still some dark patches and some dark cul-de-sacs.
Are you talking, buddy? Tyson? Can anyone hear me?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep. Oh, there he is.
No. Tyson, after you said streetlights, it was like nothing. Can you repeat?
Okay, I'll try that again real quick. Okay, street lights, street paving, sidewalk repairs. I think those are the big ones that I see and that I hear other people mention to me. I think that's some of the things that I see and that I'm concerned with, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak.
Of course. Yeah, I do have a few people who have mentioned that the overpass would be beautiful to be painted because it is an eyesore. They are not on the call today, but I have multiple responses about that. So are there any particular streets or potholes or specifics that you have, Mr. Hermes, for Brightleaf with regard to your punch list? Or was that just a general overall?
More specifically, we have kind of an issue with the curb and gutter on Brightleaf. It's all kind of falling apart and peeling away from the pavement. The pavement also has been, the cracks have been sealed a number of times. And typically when they do it, I know it's going to prolong the life of the pavement by doing that, but a lot of people complain of what that actually looks like. But no specific potholes that I would mention offhand.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, and did we lose Mr. Cahill? I think he had to jump on another call. Okay. All right, well, this has given us a lot to follow up on. And I would love to continue discussion and schedule something for sometime in the second quarter to hear what's cooking outside of this winter. Vicki, do you have anything you want to add?
I wanted to ask, everybody's talking about the streets, and I agree, there's a lot of streets right here. I'm kind of close to Woodland Hills. I'm in the middle of Erlanger, old and new, central Erlanger, right off of Stevenson Road. And I know some of our streets are in bad repair too. And I thought at one time Public Works had a schedule on our website. Is that still there?
We don't have it on the website, but we have access to it, Vicki. Our hesitation to put it up on the website is that it sometimes changes. We're able to bump streets up ahead of time. But it might bump other streets down, but we have a 5-year plan. And now that we did the analysis of all of our streets. Peter is able to take that analysis that we got from PDS and build out the 20-year plan. So that's
Okay.
something that he's been working on.
I was going to say at one time they did have it on there, and that's probably why they took it off.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay.
It sets an expectation that it's not necessarily the
Doable.
case all the time. Yeah, because the budget might change and you might not be able to
Exactly.
allocate as many funds to road construction or resurfacing. So, it's hard to put that out there when it's not concrete. It's not it's our overall plan, but it always is subject to change.
So if I have a citizen ask me, because I've had that in recently, then I can go ask Peter to give me kind of a guesstimate and make sure
Yes.
that I tell the citizens that, we have no control over this. This is just an estimate, because I understand what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like if our plan is based on current fiscal, the amount that we're applying to in this fiscal year, if we would apply it out all the way across, 5 years or 20 years, this is when that street will be repaired. If we increase our budget, then that time frame shortens. If we shorten our budget, then that time frame extends.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Before we adjourn, I do want to ask the residents, and first of all, I want to thank you again for your feedback and for your involvement and interest in being part of this dialogue. What would you like to see from this task force? Or what would you like to add? I would like to know your feedback. If you don't want to provide it tonight, that's fine. If you want to shoot us an email, that's fine too. But I mean, this is a community engagement and task force, and I want to know what you guys think.
I have to think on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bob,
I'll
Kristin?
shoot you an email. That's
Okay.
a loaded question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Alright,
would just
what-
say some of the general concerns, either like I learned a lot of information today about things that are kind of already out there, just so we can kind of all talk and get ideas of what we want to do going forward. I think that I know a lot of these things are like long-term solutions. One thing I forgot to say was, an updated like our Kroger and our Remke and some of our dining is kind of pushed away, bring more of it in to the, like where the Remke is over there. I don't know, there's a lot of land. It'd be nice to see some kind of restaurants and stuff go through there. So obviously these are all like very long-term requests, but the things that can be done in the short term just to kind of pretty up the city a little bit, I think would be nice. And to add to the prettying of the city, I know my parents live in the Villa Hills area, and they just like their street signs. They flipped out their street signs to new modern, more looking, took down those little green things and put up like, I think they're black and white. And it looks really nice. So just small things like that can really make the whole street look a little bit better. So doing what we can.
Hey, Kristin, I just want to let you know, the amount of events that Kim, our event planner, is planning. I mean, it's like insane.
Well, good. I like to hear that.
We just had a meeting the other day and she's like, I'm filling up the calendar. I'm like, okay, girl, you do it. Go ahead.
Good.
Pack it.
So we
Pack
have,
the calendar.
We're excited.
I think, is it ice skating? Or no, it's roller skating tomorrow. And then ice skating on the 28th. We're gonna do like a putt night once a month. Like we're gonna rock it out. And then we'll have the summer send off, the big festival, the third weekend in September. So we're back on track for that. So yeah, it'll be pretty awesome. Lots planned.
Awesome.
That's
Kristin,
awesome
well-
news. My stir crazy daughter's pulling me away.
Kristin, also for your information, Remke is an Erlanger. Remke
Not-
down on Turkey Foot is not an Erlanger.
What city is that?
Independence.
Technically Independence.
It's
Oh.
getting a big B, so it's all good.
We have
It's
some
gonna be
very odd boundaries.
but
Yeah,
all
I
right.
would never have expected that, but yeah. Okay.
And the Big B opens on Monday. I know it's Independence, but it's super close to Erlanger, and we want to support our local businesses. So if anyone is dying for a cup of coffee with 700 calories, Big B is the place to go. I love it.
Low calorie too. Just get it black.
And also, I got a text from another resident, Robert, so you know that Hook Fish and Chips is coming to Sherburne on March the 3rd. So it's
Cool.
another food truck, and the rest of us want to head to Sherburne on March the 3rd.
Yeah,
They're having
put the bat signal.
They're having a fish and chips. Somebody just texted me.
Put the bat signal out, guys. Invite us, please.
Exactly.
All right.
Go
Well,
to
thank
that, the Nextdoor app and also the Sherborne Facebook page. There's a couple of residents that organize all of this. They publicize the heck out of it on those platforms. So if you have access to those, go check them out. It's all there.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you guys again so much. We'll be in touch and looking forward to continuing the dialogue. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.